My inbox is for clients, professional opportunities, and one very specific musician who could contact me in any way, and I'd be happy about it. And it is most certainly not for angry little sock puppets. Okay, love you, bye.
Because frankly, every other problem on Earth right now is bigger and more important than a guy who has a crush on another guy.
How's it going today, everyone? Tyler Catastrophe is one of the more peculiar cases I've come across on the internet. On the outside, Tyler is an upstanding individual. He donates to charity, he donates food. He's very passionate about his causes and his community. He's a man who, by his account, has faced many hardships in life and was able to overcome some of his struggles. Everything seems normal for sure, an odd individual, but by all accounts, a good person. And that is true, except for one huge part of Tyler's character, and that is his obsessive nature. Tyler was just a young man with goals and dreams, starting his own business and promoting it on his TikTok. Everything was normal until he met and became enamored with a controversial singer named Wilbur Soot, where shortly it became noticeable that this was a fixation of Tyler's, that not only would he begin to mention this man in almost every other TikTok he posted, auditioned to be their secondary vocalist, and is now trying to move to England to be very close to where Wilbur lives. At the time of this recording, Tyler says this is all coincidence, but with so many red flags, it's hard for a viewer to not at least ponder the possibility.
I do not think that Wilbur Soot is an abuser, and I know I've said that fairly indirectly in the past, especially recently, but I do feel like now it needs to be said point blank. Because as someone who has been a victim of abuse, assault, and domestic violence, I know way too well what those things look like. And while I know that most of my audience knows how I approach things like this by now, I also know that if I post this video, there will probably be a lot of people who don't know me who see it. So I'm going to try to be as kind, direct, and clear-cut as I can. So I'm going to stick to 3 main points from Shovel's VODs. Please go and watch them yourself. You are under no obligation to think the way that I do. And then I'm going to touch on Wilbur's response. And then I think the general response needs to be addressed as well. Because Shovel's main points were that Wilbur was a slob, had a messy house, that she paid for a lot of her way to see him, and that he bit her. For point 1, let's be honest, most men aren't taught how to take care of themselves in their living spaces. And for men in their early 20s, that's a lot worse than it should be. Every man I dated in their late teens, early 20s was gross. That's just kind of par for the course. It sucks, but it is to be expected. And it is not, by default, malicious. 2, paying your own way, especially for a distance like that, is kind of expected. And when you take into account that they were both very successful in their respective careers at that point, paying your own expenses isn't, by default, malicious. And for the 3rd point, Shovel states very clearly in her follow-up VOD that she consented to the biting. She then went on to clarify that what she had an issue with was the fact that it hurt. And while I don't think anyone should be hurt in their relationships, at the end of the day, that is a communication issue. And whether it's just a poor communication or lack thereof, both parties are responsible for that. Because a lack of communication or poor communication on either side is not, by default, malicious. And at the end of the day, when no assault took place, and the end result is just a bad relationship, that is something you handle in private, like adults. And to air personal, adult dirty laundry to a very large, very young audience in a way that is incredibly vague and left open to interpretation is, at the end of the day, very dishonest and very irresponsible.
As you just saw, Tyler isn't shy in his defense of the lead singer Wilbur of the band Lovejoy, actively claiming that the alleged victim of Wilbur is lying. As you can understand, this didn't sit well with many of Tyler's viewers and the new people who discovered him from this post. After it got some mainstream attention, mainly citing the fact that she had taken her claims to the internet first, and because of that he immediately discredits her because he himself would not take actions like that, even though, as many point out to him, just because you wouldn't react in a similar manner doesn't mean they won't. And many have pointed to the fact that Tyler has a huge crush on the singer of Lovejoy, Wilbur. Tyler has stated how attractive he finds Wilbur, fantasizing about dating him, wanting to join his band. So now you can see why people also believe Tyler has a skewed point of view on this topic and is downplaying the victim. And through my research, I was able to find one of the VODs from Wilbur's alleged victim, Shovel, and Tyler claims that she was downplaying the alleged biting that had taken place, but in the VODs I found, she claims Wilbur is allegedly trying to manipulate his fans, and still to this day, she rejects his claims of the bites being playful and consensual by both parties.
Speaking out about my bad experiences has never felt as important as it does right now, because silence has always brought me peace, and this time it feels like my silence is not keeping my peace. It's only keeping somebody else's peace. And I never thought that I could be the kind of person to end up in a situation like I did. I never thought that could happen to me. And so for me, this is important because it could help anybody else see the signs sooner than I did, or hopefully avoid a similar situation entirely, because the truth is, it was dangerous. There were a lot of things wrong in this relationship that I endured some pretty terrible treatment. He had this habit of biting, which is so weird to me now, but he said that he had this habit since he was a kid, and even his mom said that that was true. And he said it was just affectionate, and that might have been, I think that might have been true maybe at the start, but I also feel that I have good reason to believe that every part of it was a lie, but that's just my personal opinion. He started biting me more and more over a period of time, sort of throughout the whole relationship, and accidents of him biting too hard and really hurting me happened more and more frequently. But he always seemed genuinely sorry, and he decided that he didn't want to keep accidentally hurting me.
Tyler is a very poor decision maker. He lives life like a video game where there's unlimited chances, and to a degree, that's admirable. Tyler is not afraid to take a risk on something that he's passionate about. You can see in the B-roll and some of the outfits Tyler is wearing throughout this video that he is very passionate about clothing, jewelry, and art. When it comes to these passions of his, he is willing to risk everything just for a chance to make it. To the point I believe Tyler puts himself into terrible situations because he becomes too fixated. Another bad quirk of Tyler's. Most people when going for a goal have realistic steps like working a job while they try to get the business off the ground so they can have some sort of stability during slow months. But Tyler doesn't do any of that. He just jumps in with reckless abandon and just tries to figure it out as he goes. Multiple times throughout his life, he's received a tiny amount of go-ahead from somebody, and sometimes literally tries to sell his entire worldly possessions just because of it, off of a slim chance that he might find some fame in this life, which can work sometimes, but for somebody as so easily stressed as Tyler, I just can't imagine it working for him.
A couple years ago, I flew halfway around the world to meet an artist named Stuart Semple. With the help of his scheduling director at the time, I got to spend some time in the Culture Hustle studio. I made amazing friends, I helped work on some things, and it was the most inspired I had ever been in my life. I definitely did not want to leave, ever. Before this visit, during this visit, after this visit, me and Stuart had messaged back and forth quite a few times. I thought he was great. But then, of course, I got back to the States, realized I really didn't want to be there anymore, and I wanted to go back to England. So I took a chance, which is what got me to the studio in the first place, and I asked Stuart outright, hey, I need to be out of my current living place by this time. If I can get the funding together, if I can make the move happen, would you hire me? And when he said that we could probably make that happen, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. And looking back, that really was just a positive maybe, but it really felt like a yes in the moment. And I knew that if there was even a chance it could happen, I would have to act immediately. I started crowdfunding, I started doing garage sales, I started pushing my art businesses very hard. And my friends over at Culture Hustle were also super excited for me. They were and still are super supportive, and I love them very much. At one point in all this, I even had a conversation with the artist liaison over at Meow Wolf Grapevine, and I passed along Stuart's contact information because I knew Stuart would love to work with Meow Wolf. But as we got closer to the time that I had given Stuart that I needed to move, all communication stopped. Even with people in the studio telling him he needed to talk to me, nothing. And then eventually, the trying to communicate with a brick wall drove me so humiliatingly insane that I ended up having to get his assistant's email in the hopes that they would just give me an answer. And it was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. I felt like I was in disgrace, and it sucked. And then I didn't talk about it at all. My once very promising career took a huge nosedive, and I wound up basically homeless and had to beg my mom to let me move in with her for a couple months. I sold a bunch of stuff that I still have not been able to afford to replace. And today I realized that I have not painted a single damn thing for myself in a year. And obviously a lot of the responsibility for those things falls to me because I treated a maybe like a yes, and I got too excited, but I really wanted it.
And if Tyler is to be believed, I think that a large part of the reason Tyler is so willing to jump to small fleeting hopes to the point he could very well lose everything stems from the fact that he never really had a stable home life. Tyler has a strained relationship with his father, to say the least. When he was young, his dad, in Tyler's words, would bully him and allow his girlfriend to take advantage of Tyler and his mom. It got so bad that Tyler claims that him, his mom, and grandma were sleeping on a floor around the time that he graduated. And I believe because of this, he still holds on to things as a child he valued dearly because he never really grew up in a sense, and not in a typical nostalgic fashion seeking out old toys and things he grew up with, wanting to recreate the good old times. But Tyler seems to use these toys as like something that brought him joy back in the day during the bad times, and now he must have them again to play and feel that comfort, which is one of the reminders that Tyler isn't a terrible person, but a man who seems to harbor deep trauma and uses these fixations of his to take his mind off the pain. It's not excusing his actions, but it kind of gives you an idea where this stuff comes from. It also looks like Tyler never really learned what it's like to be acknowledged or respected in his household, so now he's seeking these people who he views as important people in their craft to validate him. Think Wilbur Soot and some of the other people that he's attached to in the past. Again, I think this also has to do with Tyler's obsessive nature.
It's having them. It is what it is. But two of my favorite dolls from that old collection were American Girl dolls that I begged and begged and begged for. They were gifts from my grandparents, an Elizabeth doll from the Felicity collection and a Just Like Me that looked like me. I called her Natalie. And I think about them every once in a while because frankly, I'm allowed to be a little bit bitter about the things that happen to me. But then, last night, I'm scrolling at 2 a.m. and what do I see but an American Girl Disney collab with not only my childhood favorite Cinderella, but also my right now favorite Tiana. And the most cancelable thing I've ever done was entirely justified. I was probably 18, 19, one of my father's girlfriends wouldn't stop vague posting about me and my mom on Facebook. So me, being young, angry, and medicated out of my mind pre-therapy, naturally told him to muzzle his bitch and shorten the leash. And keep in mind, I look like this. This wasn't a misogyny thing, it was a young, angry punk hating my father thing. And I'm talking every single time I disagreed with that man, every single time I had something to say about the way he treated me or my mom. Within minutes, there was always a Facebook post talking about, oh, it's so heartbreaking to see that children just don't respect what their families do for them, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, she's defending a man that wouldn't even spell her name right. And he ended up doing the same thing to her that he did to my mom. But then, because he had no other control over my life, he took me off of his health insurance months before I was hospitalized twice in 2 months. And now I'm permanently disabled, so I guess he got his lick back somehow. So really, if you think about it, I've already been medically canceled. Okay, love you, bye. A lot of people I know get married since then. Friends, step-siblings, the mother of my godchildren love her to death, and my mom. This December is going to be the 4th December in a row where I get invited to a family member's wedding. First one made me feel so horrible about myself that I ended a 25-year friendship that had spanned our entire lives. Second and third, I knew I wasn't going to be treated well ahead of time, so I just didn't go. This December, it's for one of the very few people in my once very large extended family that still treats me with, love and respect. If I don't go, it would actually be an issue for people. Thing is, I really don't want to go alone to this wedding. Sure, I'm good at going to things alone. I have no problem with that. Then I'll have to deal with all the people who haven't seen me since I was this, alone. Or worse, I could invite my roommate and deal with all these people and be like, oh, they were roommates. No! I love Andy to death, but absolutely not. Gross. Now I think my best and silliest option is to just plead with the universe to please, finally send me my soulmate, and hope that we are in +1 to my cousin's wedding territory by December. So if anyone knows a guy who's like Milo Thatch from Atlantis mixed with Apollo himself, who is also between the ages of 25 and 32 and will treat me nicely, send them my way. Bonus points if they don't live in America or are willing to move out of America with me. And mega bonus points if they don't see my success and ambition as a threat to their own. It would be really cool if they let me have as many pretty shelves as I want.
That's important to me. I feel like those are totally normal and achievable things to want in a partner. So, universe, I've been so good, please. Versus totally just like Santa. My biological father is dating the mother of my teenage sister's teenage boyfriend. And even with all of the other terrible, awful things that he has done to me and my family, this is the worst. And I've known about this for a while, but I couldn't let myself say anything because she was still in high school, and if any of her friends found out, it probably would have ruined her life. I'm choosing to say it now because she's 18, she's graduated high school, and I know for a fact that my mother would take her in, no questions asked, so she has a safe place to go if she chooses. However, I may not be a psychologist, but I am the scapegoat firstborn, so I've done research. And from what I've seen, if you give a narcissist total control over everyone in his life for over 30 years, to the point that he's effectively surrounded himself with nothing but enablers who will help him to shun anyone who goes against him, even to the point of making the mother of his children and his oldest child nearly homeless just out of spite. Allegedly. When they start to realize they're going to lose that control, they act a little bit rashly. And unfortunately, in this case, when he finally decided to screw over his longtime girlfriend the exact same way he screwed over my mother, like I told her he would, he realized that my younger brother was married with 2 kids and the only person left under his thumb was my little sister. Was nearly 18, months away from graduating high school, and had a boyfriend who she spent a lot of time with. And so what did he do? He decided to start dating her boyfriend's mother. And listen, this is the age of information. I haven't spoken to this man in years. But anything posted to the internet should automatically be assumed to be public. I may not have a Facebook account anymore, but I do keep tabs on the people I care about, of which my sister is one. Spilling family tea and breaking cycles of abuse, in the hopes that it will help me prevent other people I care about from continuing those cycles. And as a side note, if you'd like to support me in doing so, I have all of these things and the clicky thing that you click on. I'd really appreciate it if you checked them out. But after my father left and drained the family bank accounts, my mother was on a teacher's salary and I was still in high school. And I had been chronically employed since I was 12 years old. And I do mean actually employed. I was a fully licensed referee for youth soccer from 2012 to 2017, not including all the other volunteer work I did at that club. But my father was on the board of that club, and after refereeing hundreds of games, including traveling tournaments, I was no longer being scheduled. And because having any money at all at that point meant I had to pay my own way through life, I didn't have anything saved because I didn't have anything to save. Which really sets the tone for the big stuff. So when me and my little brother were both of driving age, my parents decided that we would both split the cost of a new car, and that we'd have to share it. But the deal was, if one of us wanted to keep it, they had to pay the other one back for all the money they'd spent on it. But I took my mother's side in the divorce, and my brother took my father's, so my father decided he didn't have to pay me back after all. And because we paid my mother technically paid that bill, he tried to tell me that my mother never used my money to pay for the car, so it wasn't even mine in the first place. So where did my thousands of dollars go? It really would have helped when my mother was selling plasma just to put gas in her car, and I was scrounging change just to feed myself. And before the divorce, we were all living on 20 acres of land out in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, in a building that was not a house, and probably should not have been lived in. Concrete floors, no real walls. I don't know how to explain it to you. But my grandmother also lived with us. And the deal between the adults was that if the land ever sold, they would split it between the 3 of them, and it would be fine. But with the help of his girlfriend at the time, my father decided to sell the land for way under market value just as quickly as possible.
Tyler has a bad problem with oversharing on the internet. He's often talking to his audience more as a confessional box to air out his problems, and then posting on the same day upbeat videos about his art that he's made. And this is a good example of Tyler's lonely nature, which has led him to become very parasocial with his audience. He talked about leaving his cell phone number the same until his sister was 18 in the hopes of her calling, but she never did, and how these cards will somehow make up for the pain of losing his old birthday card because of his father selling the land out from under his mom a long time ago. A lot of this seems to be his grief of not talking to most of his family, so instead, he's elected to replace that with his viewers sending him birthday cards so that he can read. And while yeah, it's a nice idea at the end of the day, for somebody like Tyler, creating more parasocial relationships from something that can disappear tomorrow isn't going to replace the pains of today. The internet isn't a place that's always going to treat you kind, and putting your faith into something like that can lead to a quick and sudden downfall, especially when Tyler has began to experience trolling on a bigger scale. It's just not a good look. And with his takes on Lovejoy and growing notoriety, more and more people are discovering him, and let's say it's not always positive. So I believe it would be in his best interest to focus on real relationships, things that, you can physically see, you can actually talk to that person in real life, instead of something that could blow up in your face later on.
Would you send a birthday card to a stranger, yes or no? I asked that same question last year, and it very quickly became the best birthday I've had in a very long time. Because I used to love birthday cards as a kid. I had them all that I kept in a purple raspberry tea tin that my grandma gave me. And then at some point in my teenage years, when my parents got divorced, my father paid the record crew to throw away basically everything we owned, and I didn't have any of them anymore. So of course, all of these mean so very incredibly much to me. So if you would like to send me a birthday card, my birthday is April 15th. I'll be turning 27. This is my P.O. box right here. You can also find it at the link in my bio at the very top of my link tree. And if you'd like to know a little bit about me, my name is Tyler. I make beaded jewelry and paint for a living, and I'm currently in the process of saving to move from Texas all the way to England. My favorite colors are yellow and light pink. I love dandelions and all types of lilies, especially spider lilies. I love salamanders and hummingbirds and penguins and foxes and pigs. I like Spider-Man, especially Spider-Man India. The only video game I ever really play is Minecraft. My favorite sports team is Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club for so many reasons. I collect snow globes, especially from other places, and I have over 150 of them. I also collect football trading cards, but specifically Brighton and Hove Albion players. My favorite band is Fall Out Boy. My favorite book is anything written by Rick Riordan. Always has been, really. My favorite musicals are Hades Town and The Count of Monte Cristo. Yes, it's a musical. I love everything Apollo, Hades, Persephone, and Hermes. Greek mythology in general, really. Also snakes. Did I say snakes? I like snakes. I also really like butterflies. And dragonflies. I have a lot of favorites. I think I just enjoying things, honestly. And I'm sure there's plenty of other things that I like that I forgot to mention, but if you would like to send me a birthday card, I promise I will keep every single one. Maybe one day I'll make a scrapbook. My grandma always liked scrapbooks. And don't worry about accidentally getting doxxed. I promise I block out everything but the name and, like, the city, state, / country.
After getting this newfound negative attention, Tyler has shown that he doesn't understand how to handle it whatsoever. He's taken up to just calling out his trolls individually, which always leads to good things, right? Right? No, it normally goes south really quick, and while he's giving these trolls the attention they desire, he at the same time is putting people in his life, the remaining people that's there, in a spotlight they didn't ask for, even to some of them getting doxxed, and it was more of him actually posting them that led to doxxed. But I'm not saying the people who's doing this isn't the right, but Tyler made it very easy for them to discover who they was. And after they released information, Tyler did the next worst thing by giving the people attention and putting it in front of more eyes. As more and more scrutiny is piled up for him, Tyler seems to panic and try to one-up the haters, not realizing that he's playing exactly in the game. And every time he thinks he's getting a win, he's just spun deeper into the web, and he's already making crazy threats towards these people, like trying to get their docs. And I'll say again, what they did isn't right, but it's never a good idea to start playing those games yourself, especially over mean messages about pictures you publicly posted on your mom. And then he goes even further than that and threatens even more extreme measures. I can't really say, but just think Boogie 2988 and you might get a good idea. But it doesn't end there. In the last few months, Tyler has been doing nothing but giving the trolls more things to talk about, like accusing him of being in a relationship with his roommate. And instead of just ignoring it, he instead goes on to list all the reasons why they would never date, which only caused further speculation. And then he tells everybody that they were divorced, or that's a joke he likes to spread around. So yeah, of course, they're going to continue to talk about this to make Tyler crash out about it.
Okay, first of all, you didn't find shit. I posted her on my Instagram story. Second though, since we're talking mothers, if anyone wants to help me find out who this person actually is, so that I can have a discussion with theirs, and ultimately press charges, that would be wonderful. Don't post it publicly, of course, just DM me, because we're not doxing. Especially because I'm pretty sure this person is like 13. And finally saying all those bad words I shouldn't be saying. The second, though, if you had actually found my mother, you would know that she was a nurse for like 12, 15 years, somewhere in there. And now that she's retired, all she does is rewatch old episodes of Grey's Anatomy. Have you ever seen a baby try to punch an adult? And they're trying so hard, but the adult's just laughing and the baby just gets more and more progressively angry over time. That's what this is to me. So you trying to go after my mother in her house with her husband and their family? I'd say good luck, but you ain't getting it. Going after them instead of me would make Castle Doctrine a whole lot worse for you, I'll say that. Seriously though, I could do this all day. How many accounts you got? Anyway, if anyone wants to help me move out of Texas, I would be willing to stay in the US just long enough to see that guy face criminal charges, but eventually I'm getting the f out of here. Also, this mug holds the perfect amount of water to make my tea perfect, and I appreciate that about it.
Every time someone accuses me of being in a secret relationship with my roommate, I want to throw up a little. And trust me, they do too. 1, because we both have very different taste in men. And 2, that's basically my sibling, and neither of us are that kind of southern. Cause yeah, we live together, we know way too much about each other. But inevitably, every conversation we have usually turns into us parallel simping for other men. So while you think 2 gay people can't live with each other without falling in love, we're taunting each other with pictures of guys in bands, and I'm just happy they don't leave my sponge in the sink. We might have shared custody of a dog, but I promise you, the very second one of us gets a chance with one of our respective crushes, it is adios, see you later, I'm out. Maybe you'll get lucky and I'll send you a Christmas card. Okay, love you, bye.
Sometimes I tell people we're divorced just to see what happens.
As Tyler's channel grows, it's hard not to notice that a majority of his TikTok has turned into him responding to trolls and arguing his position and affection for the lead singer of Lovejoy, whereas in the beginning it was more steered towards his business and other odd posts about his life, like refusing to drive cars and only renting motorcycles. Why will he not buy one? Don't ask me. I don't know, he didn't elaborate, but that's what he does. But as the negative comments grow from the silly, positive ones he was used to getting, he can't help himself but try to one-up them. He sometimes is now making multiple videos a day arguing and responding to the simplest comment. Every creator receives negative comments or attention. There's backlash in just about anything that you could do, but once your content becomes about the hate, you slowly start to fall into that trap where you reveal your weak spots and people won't stop picking until there's nothing left, especially with Tyler, a person who wears his heart on his sleeve and isn't afraid to show his emotions on the internet, as he's literally crying in a lot of his videos. Or he's ranting about something that shows that deep down he is affected by what they say. For example, one of his biggest sticking points is being single, and with an obsessive nature like Tyler's, you could see how that can lead him down some dark roads, even dangerous if he doesn't get it into check.
I have had a lot of extra threats in my DMs over the past couple days, and since I have this thing to focus on, and these people apparently want my attention very badly, we're gonna talk about them and rate them 1 through 10. Now we're starting off strong here with the angriest rabbit you've ever seen. This would have done a number on me when I was 12, but unfortunately I'm 27, so you kinda missed the boat a little. But you tried, 3 out of 10. This one I'm really enjoying that we stayed on brand with the skeletal username and talking about my teeth. But if you're offering dental, I do still have a couple wisdom teeth I need pulled. Pretty sure you're the only person on this list who actually stands a chance of getting what they want. And you said the slur with your whole chest. You know what? 6.5 out of 10. Speaking of saying it with your chest, no beating around the bush, straight to the point, you know what? I respect it. Plus, I've had someone threaten to do this to me in real life, so it's a little bit nostalgic. Then of course the emoticon, and you know what? I'll give it to you 9.5 out of 10. Now this one, I would really love to appreciate the irony of professional sweetheart saying all of this to a victim. But again, you missed the boat by a couple years. Get with the program! It is a lot of words though, so 3.5 out of 10. And for someone who really doesn't want to see me win, you are giving me so many opportunities to help myself and allow other people to help me. So unfortunately, no points for you, so sorry, disqualified.
I am not a jealous person by nature, so why is it always the most miserable people who seem to think that I am? Other people's capacity for success is not a threat to mine. I genuinely enjoy seeing other people succeed and get what they want out of life. But the people who get married just to have a wedding only to find out that they actually don't even like each other a year down the road, see me being single and assume I'm jealous of them. The people who have cushy corporate jobs with benefits see me struggling with my own business, assume I'm jealous of them even when they've given up on themselves and their futures, and their passions rot behind them. It's the people who settle for almosts and good enoughs that take one look at my long days and sleepless nights and endless moments of uncertainty, assuming that I not only want what they have, but also that I somehow hope that they lose it. And that is, quite simply, not true. Settling for an almost is the stuff of nightmares for me. The thought of giving up and never knowing what I could have achieved had I kept going, that is not a truth I'm willing to live with in the slightest. And quite frankly, I am way too busy building my own life to think about toppling someone else's. I hope you get what you want. I hope you get anything you're willing to put in the work for. And then I hope you're willing to do the work it takes to keep it. But I'm the kind of person who meets a goal and immediately goes looking for another one. I'm not settling for shit.
Tyler is also very arrogant when it comes to his jewelry brand, or basically anything that he believes he has talent in. He'll tell you that he's a world-renowned artist, and he's not afraid to flaunt his own perceived reputation around, especially when he's talking about someone else's business. Even though Tyler does get a decent amount of sales himself, I just don't believe that he's the best with money, and him becoming obsessed with one idea does put him into a lot of jams because of it, so it's not really his place to criticize others, especially when you're a seller yourself, one who is becoming more popular on the internet, and when more eyes leads to more scrutiny, and when you're a business, you need to operate with that in mind. When you're calling somebody else out for the way they run their business, you open yourself up to the same level of scrutiny you just offered. Tyler often mentions how he's frustrated when his orders are late or shipping is delayed, which is something we can all agree with is annoying, but he on many occasions got on his TikTok with a moderate following to call them out, but he himself many times has told his buyers they'll have to wait over things such as mental exhaustion or wanting to go on vacation. Trivial things that, like, if Amazon was to tell you that, like, you got an email about it, you would be really frustrated. And when it comes to the designer fashion stuff, I do agree, it is overpriced by a lot. But at the same time, Tyler's art is kind of expensive. Some of his pieces costing up to $1,000. I tried looking up some of the prices for the pieces, like the actual stones and the silk and stuff used, specifically on the $1,000 piece, and I found the center stone could be bought for as low as $5. Now, to be fair, I can't confirm what stone or the price of the surrounding material could be. Maybe somebody in the comments can give me a guess on, like, if they know this stuff better than I do.
The only difference between a counterfeit and a Louis Vuitton is the label they slap on it after it leaves the factory. So please, by all means, tell me, a designer who never remakes the same piece twice, why I should aspire to be a glorified department store. Because from where I'm standing, you're really missing the mark, Maureen. And if you think this is mean, Maureen's so... oh well. The main issue I take with so many brands that people seem to revere, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, is that so much of what they sell is just expensive. Mass-produced, uninspired, easily replicated stuff that we've been trained to want because they slapped a logo on it. But virtually none of it lives up to that price tag. Any jeweler worth their salt can recreate Chanel. So sure, my work may not be made of diamonds and gold and the fancy glass at Swarovski, but I did spend years quality testing to find the only brand of seed bead I trust, and I don't buy crystals and gemstones unless I can physically hold it in my hand to check the quality myself. And I place every single goddamn bead on the string individually by hand. And personally, I think my constantly lopsided fingernails and weird-ass calluses are something I'm allowed to take pride in. Okay, love you, bye. And you know, not for nothing, but if you really wanted to insult me, you should have said I'd never be Dior. Haute couture, baby! I need to tell y'all something, and I need you to tell me if I'm in the wrong. It is rare that I get this angry, and rarer still that I get this angry at another small business owner. Because when I buy beads for my small business, typically I go to a larger distributor. I've had almost 1,000 orders since May. I need a lot of beads. But when those distributors don't have specific things that I need, usually I'll go to places like Etsy. But because I used to sell on Etsy, I know that it's not great. So I don't use the app, I don't click on ads, I copy-paste the Etsy link and go straight to it without clicking on promotional things. But it's one of the only platforms where I can search a specific item and search multiple shops at once, and that's what I need. And today, I need a harder to find color that my other distributors didn't have. Specifically this light transparent purple for my Hecate chokers. And when I looked, there was only one listing, and there wasn't much left, so I just went ahead and bought it. Then, after I hit purchase, I realized that I've purchased from the shop 3 times. The first time I ordered, they messaged me and sent me a link and asked me to buy there in the future if I was buying from them. I thought they were trying to send me a link to their website or something, which I'm totally okay with, but the link they sent me was to their Etsy, which was confusing because I was already there. And the second time, they said that my address was showing up as invalid through the USPS, which obviously it's not. I've been using that address on Etsy for almost 2 years. I don't know what was wrong there. They weren't super nice about it, but I just brushed it off. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Because text is hard. It could be a me thing. But tonight was different. They sent me this message, I sent this answer, because I was confused. And then they sent me this message and canceled my order. Now I'm thinking, what the hell did I do? Yeah, Etsy's fees suck, but I did what I could to get around that. Or at least I thought I did. At this point I did have to paste some of these screenshots together, but otherwise they are unedited. This was my response. I will admit I was a bit frustrated at this point, which is why I was a bit snippy at the end. That's my bad. But then they sent me this as a response. And at this point, I am done being nice. You are not going to treat me this way. Which then came my response here. And because Etsy penalizes sellers for not responding to every single message, they of course sent me another. And I included that last one for transparency's sake, but they're saying a lot of the same things, and honestly, I didn't really read it because I was too angry.
And now we're back to where we started. Since you're a little more familiar with Tyler now, I think it's time we get into the more recent events in his life. The spiral that he's been on for the last year or so. As mentioned earlier, Tyler had a poorly received take on the Wilbur Soot situation, and instead of reconsidering and apologizing or just never speaking on it again, Tyler began to double down, and not just double down, but grow obsessed with this man, Wilbur. In the eyes of the viewers, and it's not hard to see why, he had fallen in love with them. Randomly, Tyler made a video where he thought he could become a backing vocalist for the band. Making an audition tape for them later on, he would claim that this was satire, which I'd be willing to believe if he didn't constantly talk about Wilbur or the band Lovejoy. And not just talking about them, going out of his way to make gifts for them, and even going to their shows to meet all the band members and drooling over Wilbur in person, and then go back home after delaying multiple orders and demand that his viewers stop mentioning his obsession when he won't himself. You can tell that deep down, Tyler wants to be the star of the show. He believes that because of his family and injuries, he was robbed of something that he can never get back, and now he's left with crippling pain and a lost talent. But by following around and dreaming of this Wilbur guy, it's almost like he can vicariously live that dream for a moment. And many times throughout history, we've seen these kind of situations where a fan falls madly in love with a singer or a member of a band and is willing to give up nearly everything just to be close to them. And for sure, Tyler gives off those vibes, and in many of those circumstances, it ends very bad.
I have absolutely no idea if one of my favorite bands might want a second vocalist, but I do know I am crazy enough to ask. So hi, Lovejoy! Do you want a second vocalist? My name is Tyler Solona, I'm 26 years old, I live in Texas, but I'm trying to move to England anyway. I'm a massive extrovert, I've been performing since I was 10, and in 2019 I was actually a semi-professional vocalist, but then had to spend almost 5 years getting my voice back after losing it completely because someone hit me with their car. Through the sheer force of audacious determination, I now have my voice back and my vocal stamina. Which basically means that now that I can go back to music, not doing so makes everything else feel unfulfilling and sad. I figured I might as well shoot my shot. And I also play the trumpet, which is probably helpful. Anyway, here's Portrait of a Blank Slate. The whole thing. I hope you like it. I mean, you probably like it already, let's be honest. It is your song, but I also hope you like the parts that I'm gonna do. The singing part. So I met Lovejoy last night. Mark recognized me and my roommate, which was fun. Love that guy. Also, sorry about the slide whistles, Mark. They'll be silly, it'll be fine. But there were also several other people from TikTok who recognized me, which is always fun. Love it when that happens. It's always at shows, and I love that for me. But they know about the audition video. They didn't ask me to join the band, but it's fine. They seem to be doing pretty okay without me, at least. Also, side note, the number of people who took that I'm so serious as I'm so serious, wild to me. Do you not hear my voice? Of course I didn't think they were going to actually want me to join the band. I was bored and views were low. The world was my oyster. Anyway. But I mentioned that video paid my electric bill, generally the most money I've ever made from a TikTok. And Mark's response was, damn, maybe I should audition for Lovejoy. But because Will's been more mobile on stage this tour, just like moving and bouncing and twirling around, I gave him one of those straps that like connects to the back of your head so your glasses don't fall off. Like, these might be helpful, but it will not hurt my feelings if they're not. But the look on this man's face when he had to tell me that he actually broke his glasses, which, I'm sorry I wasn't there several days before. This is totally on me. I'm so sorry. But Andy explained how they worked, and I usually wear contacts to shows, as I was last night. And Will was like, oh, you do shows? And there was a brief half second of crippling sadness because, no, not anymore. Because of the whole getting hit by a car thing. Soon, someday, I will not rest until I'm a musician again. But I mentioned my titanium ribs, and Mark's response was, well, at least next time you know you'll bounce right off. I mean, the goal is that there won't be a next time, but you never know. Thank you, Mark.
Tyler is going to go on and tell you guys in the coming clips that he's far too good of a person for him to be anything like what the viewers want him to be. And that is a stalker. And yes, Tyler by all accounts does seem like a good guy. He'll donate, march for what he believes in, take time out of his day for the viewers he cares about. But there seems to be a disconnect somewhere along the line because despite all of that, you can still have faults, and his obsession with Wilbur is obviously one of them. We've seen things like this come to a more drastic degree with Daniel Larson, so it's no surprise that people would grow concerned with Tyler's recent behavior, and the more defensive he becomes about it, and actions that directly line up with him getting closer to Wilbur, relationship-wise, actually trying to befriend him, and literally moving as close to him as possible, it's gonna raise a few eyebrows. Tyler even says that this Wilbur guy is the prime example of the man he wants in his life, and he won't settle for much less. It gets very creepy. If at any point you start believing that a celebrity who has no idea who you are is actually in love with you and the ideal person for you, it might be time to start communicating these ideals with your therapist and stop coping to TikTok about it, because they don't know you. You truly don't understand them whatsoever. They could be a person you despise. You just enjoy their music and art. It's entirely different.
At least a genie would be intelligent enough to circumvent my expectations. Twitter does not do that. I am happy, and I am kind, and I am intelligent. And again, contrary to the contrarian belief, I am very well liked both in real life and online. I know that I have a very high level of integrity. I do not say shit that I'm not willing to stand on. And I approach life itself with a level of compassion and empathy that is unknown to the likes of Twitter. So yeah, if you're here, hi, I appreciate you. So if you see Twitter talking about how I'm so obsessed with a man that I'd be willing to excuse everything he does just because I think he's hot, I can assure you that is not the case. God forbid a man understand nuance. Because when a guy is accused of biting someone too hard, and the person doing the accusing said, and I quote, "I never said it wasn't consensual," and the guy being accused said, "I thought it was consensual, I'm sorry, I would have been different if I had thought it wasn't consensual." Yeah, I think I'm gonna be okay with the guy, I think. But even so, I have made thousands of videos in the past 7 years, and maybe a dozen of them have anything to do with him. And more than half of them have just to do with the band that he's in. 'Cause yeah, he's hot, but not hot enough to justify horrible things if he had done horrible things. I almost named myself after Austin Carlisle from Of Mice and Men. You don't see me bending over backwards for him. Is it embarrassing to publicly admit that you have a crush on someone? Yes. Is it also embarrassing to admit the person you have a crush on has a larger following than you do? Yeah, sure. But having a crush and feeling emotions about a person you don't know is not inherently wrong. I'm not out here writing self-insert fanfiction or building a shrine to our love in my closet. I said that I had a crush on a guy who I do not know, and that we met one time, made eye contact, and it gave me butterflies. I said it in a way that wasn't strictly literal, because I'm an artist and a poet, and I like to say the pretty words, and y'all are out here acting like I trained an AI chatbot to talk like him. And for the record, we are strictly against AI in this house, just so you know. But are y'all really so online that you forgot that being human is allowed? Yes, he's successful, and there are other people who want him, and he has a larger following than me, and I've had a crush on him for more than a couple years. But he is just a guy. Having a crush on him makes it hard for me to have a crush on literally anyone else, because he is proof that all the qualities I want in a partner exist as one coherent person, and why the f*** would I want to settle for someone who doesn't have those qualities when I know that those qualities exist? But I'm not out here saying that he's the only person who's allowed to date me. He's the only one who's allowed to try, and if I just wait long enough, he'll fall in love. No! If he asked me out, I would say yes. That is all I said. Having a crush might be embarrassing, but it is not weird, it is not wrong, it is not stripping someone of their rights. And I know I can pull. And thinking to myself, hey, I bet if this guy knew me, he'd probably like me back. There's a chance. Is also not parasocial. It's just thinking. I am going to eat this lamp, y'all.
Tyler, just to really help out the narrative that he's not trying to stalk this Wilbur guy, Tyler has now decided to allocate most of his revenue received from his art business to move to England. And part of the reason I believe Tyler wants to go to England, besides the obvious Wilbur stuff, because he's the kind of person who thinks the next adventure will give them the joy that they were always looking for. It's probably part of the reason he's so willing to give up everything and dive headfirst into whatever adventure he's going to partake in, but at the same time, he's yet to realize after all the problems that he's put himself through that it's not the adventure or the huge leap that's going to bring you happiness. Moving to a different country isn't the dream it always is set out to be. It's just another place with its own problems and its own people going about their day. They can be rude, they can be nice, they're capable of everything the people in Texas are. You just have to find the right people to be around, but that would be for a normal person, and not a man seemingly obsessed with another man to the point that he's willing to work non-stop around the clock, making and selling his art to others. And it looks like it's working. Tyler is close to his $22,000 goal on GoFundMe to move himself and his roommate and their dog out to England, and the last time I checked while making this video, the set number of bracelets and necklaces are almost at their goal. But that'll rely on Tyler not making a serious mistake. Obvious foreshadowing right there.
$1,000 and 1,000 bracelets away from leaving Texas for good, and I am so excited about it. And the best part is that all of those bracelets come with a free random charm for my gumball machine. There's so many fun ones in there. Now this goal is much smaller than the one I set last year, which removed a ton of obstacles and really set a firm foundation for me to build this new life for myself. And this smaller goal is the one that'll really put me through the door. And since I'm the kind of person who gets this kind of thing sent to him, I would really like to walk through that door.
I fucking hate living in Texas.
So if you wouldn't mind liking, sharing, reposting, doing all the things, it would mean the absolute world to me. Because let's face it, there isn't a normal job in the world that would make this possible for me. But with a couple more months of my own hard work and some support from the people who got me this far, I am very confident that 2026 will be the last year I ever live in Texas. And since I learned so much from the first goal, because let's be honest, that was a trial by fire that I was not prepared for in the beginning, but it built me. I know I can trust my friends at the post office to let me know if prices are going to rise again. I've rounded down on my profit margins just to set more aside in case tariffs and other prices rise again. I know that I can make 6, 7, sometimes 8 bracelets in the same time it takes me to make 1 choker. So even if I sold 1,000 bracelets today, I know they aren't likely to slow me down very much while I work through the last about 300 orders of the over 1,000 that I received from the last goal. I finished over 700 orders in like 8 months. Because this time last year, I set the goal to sell 800 bracelets and 300 chokers. And thanks to the amazingness of people watching this, we surpassed that goal in about 6 months. And I was so sure it was finally gonna happen. But then, the everything happened. Because not only did the cost of shipping go up by almost 50% on some things, but then the tariffs made it really hard for me to get the materials I needed, and then the cost of everything went up. So while I did make enough to cover shipping, materials, get caught up on bills, get out of debt, and start replacing a bunch of vital stuff like personal documents that I have to take with me, allowing me to create a nice solid foundation to make this move work, all that's left to do now is add to my savings as much as I can, and also make enough to cover living expenses like rent, bills, and groceries, while I finish the rest of my open orders. And while part of me is panicking, because of the more than 1,000 orders I received between May of last year and December, I finished about 700 of them, so I have about 300 left. Most of which include chokers, while I'm almost entirely caught up on bracelets. I have about 100-ish left, because chokers take me between 5 and 7 hours each usually, while bracelets only take me about an hour. So I can usually make between 6 and 7 bracelets in the same time it would take me to make 1 choker, which is why I chose the 1,000 bracelet goal. So starting today, bracelets, earrings, keychains, my little paintings, and my more intricate crystal necklaces that are already made and ready to ship will be available to everyone, and I will be promoting them probably really hard. But I've decided to make all of my chokers only available to people outside of the United States. Because worst case scenario, I have to put them off towards the end. I'm able to finish them in England and ship them from there, as long as y'all are willing to be patient with me, which all of you have been, and I am so incredibly grateful for it. I'll cry if I keep talking. While I'm able to focus more on US orders, because if I were to take US orders with me, y'all would have to deal with the tariffs, and I don't want either of us to have to do that. So please like, follow, share, repost, maybe leave some random nonsense in the comments. My attention, some of you still don't know who I am. But luckily, I do! And since I'm currently in the process of using my art and jewelry as a means to move all the way from Texas to the UK, in the hopes of acquiring some variation of a global talent visa so I can continue my work, I think it might be time to brag a little. I'm an accomplished lifelong musician, a published poet, an exhibited artist and painter, and I'm known internationally as a weaver, beadworker, and jewelry designer. I've sold tens of thousands of pieces of artwork and jewelry both in person and online. I've shipped to all 50 states, and 26 countries on 5 continents, including Antarctica, so far. I've done dozens of in-person vendor events, if not over 100, I didn't count. I've shown my work in multiple exhibitions, including an exhibition for Clara Looper, the mother of the civil rights movement in Oklahoma, as well as a solo exhibition in Denton, Texas that lasted over a month. And in just the past 5 years, I've designed unique, one-of-a-kind jewelry you can't find anywhere else, that's been worn for everything from weddings to cosplays, from TED Talks to fashion shows. And so far, my work has a 100% success rate when it comes to marriage proposals. All of my work adheres to very strict quality control. Like this pink and green piece that I designed as a fun challenge to match this Ellie Saab gown from the 2025 Spring Couture collection. And every detail from the structure of the weave itself to the quality of each individual bead and gemstone I use is held to a meticulous standard that I will never compromise on. And I have 6 custom pieces currently under contract for a movie that should be recommencing filming in the coming months. Like this one, that is absolutely full of so much amethyst. I've helped multiple young artists and musicians get their foot in the door and make their starts, and the respect and reputation I've worked very hard to earn, from peers, clients, fellow artists, event organizers, means that my confidence in myself and my abilities and my work is pretty much unshakable at this point. And as someone who was born into generational poverty and started this journey with virtually zero support system, I have blown past so many personal limits, pushed so many creative and professional boundaries, that there is genuinely not a single person on the entire earth who could ever make me believe that I don't rightfully deserve to feel pride in who I am and what I've accomplished.
Do you guys remember me saying if Tyler didn't make a serious mistake? I sure hope you do. Well, if you do, he did for some reason. In the middle of all of his drama, most likely out of anger, he decided he no longer wanted to be a part of the TikTok creator program, a good source of his income, while he's trying to move to England. And anybody can see how this decision makes absolutely no sense. It just means you rely more on gross sales of your business instead of having an additional passive income. And this is the same person who wasn't even aware of the amount of shipping would cost him, having to send all of these packages all across the world. There's a reason most small businesses tend not to sell overseas, because really the expenses add up, but that doesn't work for Tyler, who isn't willing to bend or fold over silly matters such as paying rent or asking for even more money from his fans on GoFundMe. So he just doubles down a part of Tyler's character he's going to show more and more as we go on, and the viewers just have to deal with it.
But 2025? $5,388.10. And that's not including materials. That's not including mailers in multiple sizes. That's not including bubble wrap and tissue paper and thank you cards and pens and the little gold baggies I ship all of my pieces of jewelry in. That is just flat shipping. And then you pair it with the $3,882.14 I spent on just beads, charms, and ribbons. And that's almost $10,000. My brain's still processing this, not gonna lie. But I am very grateful to have the perspective that this has just given me, because I'm currently using my business as a way to move out of Texas and all the way to England. And I set a goal, and thanks to you all, we met that goal. But clearly, I did not set the goal high enough, because for the past couple months, I've been stressing myself out, wondering, where's all the money gone? Am I really this bad with money? Oh my god, my parents were right! But then you start looking at the actual numbers, and you realize, yeah, that makes total sense that I have less than I thought I would, because I spent somewhere in the range of 13 grand just keeping my business running. That's not including rent, that's not including phone bills, that's not including any of my monthly expenses like groceries. But I guess all of this is just to say, holy shit, thank you to everyone and also me for actually doing the damn thing. Because when I started this thing, when I really started putting myself into my jewelry and my skills and my craft, and building something for myself that no one else believed in, I did not have a support system. Parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, other extended family, every single one of them either wrote me off and cut me out of their life, or actively tried to convince me not to do it. And yeah, I'll admit, there were a lot of times where I was tempted to. Because when you're in the middle of a very dark tunnel with no light on either side, well, you get a little scared. But I did it. I did a lot of it alone, in ways that no one else will ever understand. But I did it alone long enough for other people to come along and stay with me. And for that, I will never not be grateful. The only videos on here that make any money for me are the ones where a lot of people are suddenly telling me to stop living. Usually in fun and creative ways to get around the filters. And basically every other video I post gets capped right underneath the monetization qualifiers. But you try to set a business goal or jokingly audition for a band that you like, and suddenly, your electric bill is paid. But at what cost? So as of today, I have officially left the Creator Rewards program. Who cares, right? And I joined it before I moved into this apartment, so I didn't even last a full 2 years. That shit was just not worth it. And now we're in the end times. And now none of my accounts are monetized and I can finally get back to what really matters. Putting beads on a string and telling you about them. And I am literally so good at it. Look at these. And I've somehow thought up over 50 different choker designs that you can look at. You can pick your favorite, perhaps acquire one or several.
At this point, we've hit prime desperation. Tyler's business in Texas has never done any better. Most of the negativity he has received is because, well, he's a creator on the internet and keeps attracting the trolls by giving them attention. But still yet, he's going to move to England, and a good chunk of that move is going to be fan-funded. He somehow hasn't realized that he's doing well right now, and by moving to England, he's going to encounter struggles that he wasn't ready for, especially when a large majority of his buyers are from the United States. You could see on his sticker wall, like, a vast majority. They're not from Europe. So now those business costs that were getting hampered by the every now and then overseas purchase is now going to be a majority overseas purchases, making the overhead that much more expensive. And Tyler says that TikTok videos helped him pay his rent, and with that source of income gone, I really don't know what Tyler's plans are, because things could get bad really fast, all in the hopes that he can potentially get closer to Wilbur. It's actually crazy.
If you wouldn't mind watching this video all the way through, I would greatly appreciate you. And if you wouldn't mind sharing it and doing all the things, well, mwah, you know? See, I'm a queer, disabled trans guy trying to move all the way from Texas to England, and I definitely need your help to do it. We've already met the minimum monetary goal, which I am so incredibly grateful for. But if you still want to contribute that way in like cool art and jewelry and stuff, clicky thing that you click on. But I'm hoping to move on a global talent visa, which would be the easiest way to let me keep my small business when I move. And while I do already technically qualify, there are a few goals I would really like to meet that would make it a lot easier. One, which is probably the easiest, I would really love to hit 50,000 followers. Not only would it make my business look better on paper, but it would also just be a personal goal of mine. Two, the main criteria for this visa is proving that my work is desirable in multiple different countries. And considering at this point I've shipped to all 50 states, 22 countries on 4 continents, it's looking pretty good. But I would really love to say that I've shipped to every continent. So if you live in Greenland, Africa, or South America and you want to be the first person to order from your continent, please hit me up. Or if you know any penguin scientists in Antarctica, that would, wow, you know. And 3, starting this Wednesday, November 26th, and ending next Wednesday, December 3rd, I'm going to be doing a Yellow Wednesday sale, because Black Friday sucks and I like yellow. And this definitely isn't going to be in time for the holiday sale. I've had almost 1,000 orders in the past 6 months, and I am still unfortunately working through August. But at some point in the next couple months, I'm going to have to close my shop completely while I get caught up and get ready to move. So it's going to be more of a last chance to get your name on the order list kind of sale. Especially because a lot of countries, including the UK, are no longer shipping to the US, and I'm worried about that. And I really want to be able to give you a fair warning, you know? But I'll have more details on the sale for you on Monday. If you want to see more of what I make, you can check the clicky thing that you click on. Everything is handmade by me specifically, and all of my necklaces and chokers tie in the back with a ribbon, making them fully adjustable and size inclusive. Hi, my name is Tyler, and I'm currently in the process of using my beaded jewelry as a means to move all the way from Texas to England. Point. And right now, we're in the final stretch. Meeting last year's goal meant that I was able to take care of everything keeping me here and remove a ton of obstacles. And after about 2 years of padding my resume, now all that's really left is getting my visa endorsed and covering the actual moving expenses. And I am 100% determined to let 2026 be the last year I ever live in Texas. But I do have a small confession to make. See, I don't know if you know this, but England is really small, especially to an American. So when I first started talking publicly about this goal, a lot of people were wondering where specifically I wanted to move to. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to answer. And while I really didn't want to offend anyone by not answering, I also really didn't want to tell the truth. So, me being me, I just picked a popular, well-known city that I knew I'd be spending a considerable amount of time in. That being Brighton. I love their football club, I love their thriving art and music scene, it's a beautiful place. But I can't afford to live there. Hope you'll forgive my little deception. And if you would like to help me move, even if it isn't to Brighton specifically, you can find all my links in the clicky thing that you click on. Right now, my hopefully final goal is to sell at least 1,000 bracelets and finish the last leg of my GoFundMe. I've wanted to make this move since I was like 16, and I've been actively working towards it for, 5-6 years? Now that it's finally within my reach, I'm just going all in. I'm locking the in. And I will never not be grateful for everyone who's helped me get this far. So thank you, both in retrospect and in advance.
One thing I've neglected to mention and left out till now is this odd thing Tyler does where he constantly refuses to end a video. He does it every time, and it's like the Peter knee gag. It starts annoying, and then it gets hilarious. Just something I wanted to tell you now, because you're going to see it here in just a minute. But back to my main point. Tyler in the coming clips is at the point of tears because he's tired of his audience pointing out the obvious. When you constantly talk about somebody and you're moving closer to them, it's not hard for the viewers to think that something might be up. And when you come on and constantly say how attractive they are, by all means, a majority are going to assume the worst. So just putting on the tears makes it seem like you're kind of doing a sympathy act. And Tyler's never proven it now, so I don't want to accuse him of things of that nature, but it's not a good look again. And it goes to show you his mental state, where he can't see what everyone else is seeing, so he's lashing out at others in the hopes that that'll make things better, but that'll only make it worse.
And while part of me knows that it's probably smart to just hope it dies out, it just keeps getting worse, so I'm gonna say some shit. I am not the one stalking comment sections hoping to see someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making fake accounts to stalk someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making money off of lying and talking about someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one writing fanfiction and making edits and drawing fan art and using AI to make slop of people I don't know kissing. You are. And I am most certainly not the one using AI to try and convince people on the internet that someone I have never interacted with is a That's 100% on you. I said that I thought a guy was hot and funny and interesting in a video where I was not strictly literal. And then I said that because I am confident and like myself, that maybe he would like me if he gave me a chance, if he was interested in men, because again, I don't know his sexuality. I do not care where he lives, I do not care who he's seeing, I do not care what he does for fun in his free time, because it has no effect on my life. I have a physical type, he happens to be that type. I have very high standards, I do not want someone who does not meet that standard. That is all I fucking said. And right now, the only reason most of my videos are still up is because I do not want to give people more room to lie. But at this point, I have spent my entire life overcoming things that most people would never even have to imagine. And I spent a ridiculously long time being just the scapegoat for everyone around me. So I know that there are people who have no interest in the truth, no matter how big it is. And I know that there are people who will post anything that gets views. Consequences be damned. I actually left the creator program months ago because I didn't like the incentive it gave to trigger people and start rage bait, and it's stupid. I don't like it because frankly every other problem on earth right now is bigger and more important than a guy who has a crush on another guy. And while it would be nice to have a little more money because I have goals of my own to work towards, I want absolutely nothing to do with any of that money. I do not like being angry, and I am angry that I have been pushed to being angry, but I am angry. I'm angry for a lot of reasons. Angry to the point of tears, because I have so many worse problems than this, and somehow we are still here. My birthday is this month, and as of that day, I will have been in pain for 7.5 years. Even in my dreams, I am in pain, because someone hit me with their car at around 50 miles an hour, and I decided to keep living after it. And if you're here trying to see if what you've heard is true, it's not. You can look at everything I've said. I've left it all up. I stand by what I've said. Because even the worst thing they could find on me was me saying that they should think and consider carefully before allowing themselves to be used as an internet attack dog on behalf of people they do not know. Because there will always be information you do not know. I stand by that 1000%. Not sorry. And to Will Gold, on the off chance that you see this, personally, kind of hope you haven't seen any of it, but to you I am sorry. Because clearly, this has gone so far, and I didn't intend any of it. This whole thing sucks. and I don't like it.
That was the end of Tyler Catastrophe's story so far. What started out as just a man selling jewelry on TikTok has spiraled into a tale of obsession and tragedy. We've seen in the past how far some of these cases can go, and I can only hope that it never gets to that point with Tyler. But that's enough for me today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow all the socials down below, use the new hype feature, comment, and I'll catch you guys next time.